For over 180 years, the Cockspur Lighthouse has stood as a sentinel on the edge of the Savannah River. Built in 1856, it has weathered the fierce storms of the Atlantic, witnessed the fires of war, and stood tall against the march of time. But now, this enduring icon is in grave danger. Rising tides, eroding shores, and the unrelenting grip of nature are slowly swallowing this historic beacon. This is not just a piece of our past, it's a symbol of resilience, a testament to those who came before us. But time is running out. We must act, and we must act fast. Our community has the power to save it, but we need you. Will you stand by as history fades? Or will you help us protect this irreplaceable treasure? The fight to save the Cockspur Lighthouse begins now. Today, Tybee Island Mayor Brian West and Harvey Farrell, president of the Friends of Cockspur Island Lighthouse, embark on a journey to survey this historic landmark. Together, with Captain Gator at the helm, they set off to assess the lighthouse's current condition.
I'm Charles Harvey Farrell III, the president and one of the founding members of the Friends of Cockspur Island Lighthouse. As you'll see as we get closer, we're moving across what is now presently the south channel of the Savannah River, which used to be the access route for the ships that used to come and visit the port of Savannah many years ago. Founded in 1837, she existed as a navigational aid until 1908, when she was decommissioned from the Coast Guard and the National Park Service, then was put in charge of her in around the middle 1950s. And at that point, she sort of stood by herself with a little attention from the National Park Service afforded to kind of keep her standing. And then, like I mentioned, almost 20 years ago, a good friend of mine, who is also one of the founding members, John Wiley, and I were discussing the lighthouse and the land that seems to be disappearing from the foundation.
My name is Melissa Memory. I'm the superintendent here at Fort Pulaski. Well, part of our mission with the National Park Service is that we are in the perpetuity business. Our mission is to protect natural and cultural resources for present and future generations. These historic places and historic structures really allow us to tell stories that otherwise would not get told in our communities as well as across the nation. Our work with the Friends of the Lighthouse has been really rewarding on in a lot of ways, in that we have been able to execute some really important preservation projects through financial support from them, but also just helping bring awareness and educational opportunities about the lighthouse. It's a really beloved structure, obviously on Tybee, but throughout the Savannah area.
So here she sits behind us. Briefly while we're here, we can see the granite boulders that sit around the foundation of the lighthouse. And until that was placed there, which happened in 2011, the land was indeed disappearing almost daily. You could just almost visibly see the land disappearing, going this way and that way. But we've gained some funding through the help of the National Park Service and a dear friend, Jack Kingston, who at that time was the congressperson for the 1st District. And he helped us find some funding for this movement. And this rock that we see is about a 6-month effort in positioning that. With the Corps of Engineers' help, they did that around the piece of land that this Cockspur Lighthouse sits on. That did work, or it is working, because the land has ceased to erode as far as we can tell. So the point is that the lighthouse is now stabilized.
We had just stabilized the site through a revetment project with the Corps of Engineers, which included a living shoreline component, which required oyster shells to reestablish to try and protect the integrity of the island. The amount of visitation that the island was seeing, those oysters were not being able to be established to provide for that protection that we had hoped they would. In addition to the oysters, the reestablishing marsh grass, which also helps protect the integrity of the island, was being trampled and impacted by the visitation. The lighthouse was also being impacted with people breaking into the lighthouse and, in one case, setting fire inside the lighthouse, and that is when we decided to close it.
With the closure of the Cockspur Island Lighthouse to the public, the National Park Service aims to safeguard the fragile ecosystem. But their concerns extend beyond the island itself. They hope to see action, not just in protecting the land, but in preserving the history and legacy this landmark represents for future generations.
Some of our concerns are related to increased ship traffic in the Savannah River, as well as just the general challenges of sea level rise and a very old building. The actions that we would like to see would be continued preservation of the masonry portion of the building, as well as replacement of the railing on top of the lighthouse, which has rusted. We also need to stabilize the island on which the lighthouse stands, including efforts to prevent further wave action from impacting the lighthouse.
The National Park Service isn't alone in their concerns about increased wave action. Just to the east, Cockspur Island's neighbor, Tybee Island, faces similar challenges. Tybee Island Mayor Brian West explains the growing impact on the coastline and the shared efforts to protect these vulnerable shores.
You see the impact of the ship wake on this side of the island. This is the north side of Tybee, and the waves from the ship, the wake from the ships washes up onto the beach here. It washes away the dunes, and you can see it's already getting very close to the condos and the homes on the beach here, and it's very important that we address this very quickly. The city is already in process. We're getting the permits necessary and permission from the homeowners in this area to go ahead and start addressing bringing the sand back in. The federal government does not help with this part of the beach, so we have to do it ourselves, and we need help. We need help from the port. We need help from the harbor, from the ports. We need to talk about the jetties and what we can do to get those rebuilt, and you know, otherwise we're going to start losing homes and property on this side of the island.